Who came up with the idea of John Cena going heel? That's the question that episode 4 of WWE Unreal on Netflix responds. This is Anthony, and if you like this type of content, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Without further ado, let's answer that question. Well, episode 4 of WWE Unreal, titled Heel Turn. The episode starts with a recap of The Rock's career by Nick Khan talking about how they've known each other since they were teenagers living in Honolulu, Hawaii. Then we go in a back and forth with then we go into we got to Triple H talking about how he got in a phone call with The Rock trying to get people into the Royal Center for Elimination Chamber, because the Canadian economy is in a bad moment, but they still want a lot of people in the arena. They want to fill it up. Excuse me. Then we see some YouTube reactions from the promo that The Rock did with Cody back in February, with him asking for Cody's soul on the road to Elimination Chamber, which was also the same night that The Rock came out to announce that WrestleMania 42 was gonna be in New Orleans. Remember that? And then they just backed out because WrestleMania 41 made so much money. So yeah, that was on the same episode. And we see some of the YouTubers and streamers' reactions about that promo, talking about, okay, is Cody turning heel? Who's gonna accept the offer? Some of the YouTubers speculating, which we saw some clips of Conman 167. We see some Santisep clips talking about it, and as we're seeing that, the next thing we see is Money in the Bank 2024 in the promo where Trish introduces John Cena in Toronto for him to announce his retirement, which I made a video about, which I made a reaction at the moment, which you can watch right here. It's one of my most watched videos. Then we see, after that promo, we see a little montage of some of the best heel turns over the years. We see Piper hitting Snuka with the coconut. We see obviously Hogan being the third man. Just to name those two. Thank God they didn't show Austin turning heel on WrestleMania 17 because of the ramifications of how awful business-wise that heel turn was, and creatively speaking, which kinda is parallel with John Cena's heel turn, but I'm not gonna get too ahead of myself. Then we see Michael Hayes talking about the art of the heel turn. He's talking about the Freebirds versus Von Erich's feud. We see some clips from World Class. We see Michael Hayes dressed as Santa Claus beating up one of the Von Erichs. I don't remember which one. I forgot to write it down on my notes. And as we're seeing that, Xavier Woods presents himself as Austin Watson, which is his real name, and also as Austin Creed, which is his gamer tag and his name on TNA. And he's explaining what a babyface is, what a heel is. He's just there to be the wrestling nerd of the episode, explaining the wrestling insider terms. And we see the New Day heel turn, which another heel turn that's been bad so far. Let's see if in the next couple of months that heel turn he heats up. And then we came in, and then Brian Gertz jumps in this episode, and I just didn't care what he had to say, because Brian Gertz doesn't know nothing about professional wrestling. He doesn't know how wrestling works. So I'm like, I just turned a deaf ear when he spoke because I didn't care. That was easily the worst part of episode 4, Brian Gertz. And now we're gonna answer who came up with the idea of John Cena's heel turn. The person that came up with the idea was, as they were discussing plans for WrestleMania, was none other than John Cena. I mean, not John Cena. Sorry. Who came up with the idea of John Cena turning heel? It wasn't John Cena. It was none other than Bruce Pritchard. And then we see this like graphic of F. Toski, Triple H, and Bruce Pritchard, and then we see it branch out with Triple H talking to Rock, then Triple H calling Travis Scott, then Triple H calling Cody, then Triple H calling Scott, which is one of their producer guys, and then we see and then he finally calls Cena, and then he's like, I love it. He loved what they were gonna do on Elimination Chamber. So right after that great little montage of the graphic of who came up with the idea, which I need to take a turn here, like go way off topic for a little moment, because it wasn't Bruce Pritchard. That was the biggest piece of BS alongside, Brian Gertz speaking on this episode, that Bruce Pritchard was the one that came up with the idea of the heel turn. He was not the guy that came up with the heel turn. It was Triple H himself, because as I stated on my Elimination Chamber predictions video back in February, and on my review, Hugo Sabinovich, former WWE commentator and former AAA commentator, who works with the Spanish-speaking dirt sheet Lucha Libre Online, was the first and only one to leak that during the writer's strike of 2023, he was the only one that leaked, Triple H was talking to John Cena, making plans about a possible heel turn. We knew. I mean, if you have contacts in the company, you knew this from way back since 2023. If you really have contacts in the company, we knew that already. We knew that. So whenever I was seeing, the Denise Salcedo, Dave Meltzer, Sean Rossap, Mike Johnson, Wade Keller, not talking about it at the time, I was like, do you not trust your own source, or you don't have sources and you've been bullshitting people all these years? Because Hugo Sabinovich ended up being right. He's also been the guy that's been saying they've been trying to look for a way to turn Dominic babyface for over a year now, because they're out of ideas of Dominic as a heel. We've known that. But you see, the English-speaking dirt sheets do not talk about it. So there goes my little rant about, people having or not having sources. So I apologize. Then we see about the ideas about how Rock wanted for Cody to say no, and then Kevin Owens comes in and wins the title. But the creative team wasn't so keen about having the title change hands so close to WrestleMania, which in hindsight would have been a horrible idea because a couple of weeks after that, Kevin Owens announced that he had to get neck surgery. So imagine Kevin Owens being the champion and then being like, "Oh, I need neck surgery." Excuse me. So sorry about my burp. And then him saying, "Oh, I need neck surgery." So imagine the position the company would have been in about trying to crown a new world champion in 2 weeks before WrestleMania. It would have been awful. So thank God that didn't happen. They had the idea of turning Cody heel, but that was shut down quickly because if the only time I ever see Cody turning heel, ladies and gentlemen, is whenever Braun Breaker is ready to be the top babyface of the company, because the next top babyface, it's gonna be Braun Breaker, have no doubt about it. But he's not ready for the position yet. They are getting him ready for it. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You know what I mean? And Michael Hayes, and then, between all of this, we once again cut to Michael Hayes, where he's talking about, like, for a while we were okay with the idea of babyface versus babyface, which, that was the original plan, to be like, okay, let's just do babyface versus babyface Cody versus babyface Cena. Then Cody talks about the importance of being on a huge angle like this. Then we see a production meeting between Michael Hayes and the Elimination Chamber participants, where we see CM Punk literally by himself coming up in his mind with the finish of that match. He came up with all of it by himself, which is pretty impressive and show how Punk has a great mind for the business, and it's sad that AEW didn't take advantage of that wrestling mind, which sucks. Because ever since he and Cody left, the company has suffered tremendously. AEW has suffered tremendously since Cody and Punk left. Since both of them left. There's no creative direction, there's no passion, there's no vision, there's no fucking mindset in that company. And and as we see that production meeting, we cut to another meeting between Rock, Triple H, and Bruce Pritchard, where they are touching the final details of the segment for Cena's heel turn. Then we have the Elimination Chamber highlights. But before that, we see Travis Scott telling The Rock, "Let's go!" And then we get the Elimination Chamber match highlights, where Cena wins. We see the segment between Rock and Cody, where Rock is told by Cody to go F himself. And then we see the hug and the iconic moment of The Rock doing the throat slit, and then we see the beat down. That was great stuff. We see the backstage reaction and the streamers reaction, and Michael Hayes and John Cena practically have the same thing to say, that if it had leaked out, it wouldn't be as if it would still be as impressive. Like, shut up, people. Like, don't come at me with that. It wouldn't have been as significant. It would have been. And the episode ends with John Cena saying that, and the backstage reaction to the heel turn, we see Michael Cole reacting to it, and the streamers and YouTubers reaction to the heel turn. So that was episode 4, titled Heel Turn from WWE Unreal. And as I always say, if you like this type of content, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you wanna see these episodes early, sign up to the Patreon, which is on the description down below. And as I always say, share these beautiful moments with your families, create beautiful memories because life's too short, but those memories last a lifetime. As always, this is Anthony, signing off. Bye bye.